And here it is. The game starts with pawn d4 by international master Ilyas Maselik. Magnus Carlsen, the world number one, greatest of all time, facing this standard position, opens the double gambit here with pawn to b5. Now this is called the Pyrenees Gambit. In itself, it's a wild move, of course. Takes was played, but it's the follow-up that really catches your eye. Magnus Carlsen, in this position, plays the bizarre pawn to c5, giving a second pawn. And white can play so many moves and be much better here, of course. Magnus loves to handicap himself. If you take en passant, also known as en croissant, then you can take back with the knight, let's say, or push d5. Who knows what Magnus would have done? You know, he's down material, he's going for open lines, but it's tough to play if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't do that and you take here, not played, well then again you've got a tough choice with black. I was at my local chess club. We were given this position. It's how I learnt about this whole double gambit thing. We were asked to play from here. I had black and I just didn't see the ideas. I thought go for some kind of Benoni setup, maybe push a6 like a Benko gambit, keep giving material. But actually this is the move, to try and recapture the pawn, and if b4 then a5. If this, there's problems, and if takes like this, you recapture with the knight. Now the lines go on and on and on, as you can imagine, but there's knight e4 themes, queen f6 themes on an exposed rook, really wild stuff. It's so fun, so complicated. None of it happened in this game because Magnus's opponent pushed with the pawn, transforms the position back into something normal. The game, however, remains exciting. So many learning points. Really want to take you through it here. It was a titled Tuesday game, played in January 2024. Let's see how Magnus handles this black side. It's so instructive watching the greatest player of all time play these strange new positions. Bishop b7, of course. There's already a very instructive moment coming up. This is online chess, by the way, 3 minutes each. It's a blitz game here. Does Magnus just develop a piece, which is very playable, by the way, not a bad move. Even knight d5 is an option, but this is more understandable. No, he doesn't. He plays the slightly strange and committal bishop takes on f3. Now, you don't normally give up your bishops, but it's such an interesting practical blitz choice, because by doing that, Magnus can take here, queen recaptures, and suddenly his pieces just flow. Knight, bishop, and although the position's roughly level, black is a little ahead now. I mean, amazingly, it's black with the central pawn, central space, right? Even though Magnus gave so much, it's his pieces streaming into the game, and he's the one with the initiative here. So bishop d6 was played, stopping the black king from castling. That one was naturally captured. Queen takes back here, and of course, that queen is a monster. You have to neutralize it. This is how Magnus played. Should you take the queens off here, or should you retreat? Of course you should retreat. Don't play a queenless endgame against Magnus Carlsen. And in general, the queen stands well on d2. This one still needs to enter the game. Bishop b5 develops with some tempo, prepares to castle one way or the other. You can't go d5 now, so Magnus brings the rook to the open file. Lovely lines of attack here for these ones. Castles from white, and now a nice move from Magnus. Instructive, calm, it's blitz chess, be practical. Pawn h6 simply. Give the king a bit of room. Take away this square, which could be useful one day to white. We see rook fe1 on the board. Nice idea. Stopping pawn d5 because you're arraying the queen and you don't want all tactical stuff going on. So this was played by Magnus. Another really nice activation. If you're not sure what to do in the end game, move forward. Activate your pieces. This is what Grandmaster Igor Smirnov talks about. I just watched him analyse this game. I'll talk more on that later. White goes pawn a3 here, and it's a micro inaccuracy, or a bit more than micro to be honest. Rook ac1's natural, best. Not played. The problem with this move, knight d4. Well done if that one occurred to you. You're double hitting this piece, so it creates a threat. And this is another threat, of course. So queen d3 was played to deal with both ideas. You know, you're no longer in this forkaroo now. We see knight takes here. How to recapture? Of course you go with the knight. You don't want the queens off against Magnus, but he's insistent. Plays the move, turning the screw. Queen c2 simply. Invading, slowly improving. White doesn't want to take those queens off, so defends b2, attacks b6. Another great move by Magnus, so instructive. Rook c5, defending the pawn like that and hitting the knight. So we don't see the knight back up or forward. Forward was actually best. We see a4, cementoing it. Magnus now improves his own knight and also looks at the newly weakened square. We see knight d6, and again this is a very instructive moment. That knight's an octopus, a monster, sitting in the black half of the board. So what Grandmaster Igor Smirnov talked about in his video on this game that I just watched is get rid of those enemy pieces that are in your half of the camp as a general rule of thumb, and it's what Magnus does here, hits that knight. I actually forgot what a good teacher he is, just giving you these little concepts. Do, by the way, head over to the Remote Chess Academy. That's the chess teaching shop he does off the side of his YouTube channel. I've talked about it many times down the years. He is such a good teacher of chess to beginner, intermediate players. Does all these great courses. These are the 3 best-selling, the Super Bundle, Road to 2000, also the 3 Steps to Improving. Great prices as well right now because they've got the summer sale on. Get it while it lasts, honestly. They're such good courses. Forgot how good he is at teaching. How to get rid of that knight. Will you attack it? If white tries to cover it, not played, then you can start chasing the queen. She backs up, obviously not to f4. Goes here to stay with the pony. But now you take here and the queen's spinning to b4 to hit the knight. Or a3 if you tried to hit that queen. Various lines, but you soon get rid of the knight. Black's miles ahead. So we saw this knight retreat to e4. Rook c4 now from Magnus. So subtle, so beautiful. Queen e5 played. This rook now wins a pawn on a4. Creates a threat down here. And so rook ac1 was played to hit that queen. She moves out the way. Queen d6. Now hang on a minute. Magnus takes this pawn here, which was now offered. His judgment once again superb, because although this looks really dangerous for white, knight d6 on the way, rook invading in here, he's got it covered. Let's quickly show the themes. If you push your passed pawn, for example, here comes the knight. Let's say you now go rook f8 to cover this sort of tactic here. Well, now you just made a mess of it. Anyway, white takes, rook takes, check. This is how quickly a game can turn. This even leads to a checkmate of the black king. Horrible stuff. So you do have to be alive to the threats here. Magnus is, what's the best form of defense? Offense. This is what Grandmaster Igor Smirnov talks about in his video. Bringing the rook down here. We do see the check. Now the king moves out the way and white's got a huge problem. As you can see by the bar, it's now -11, -12, completely lost. There's nothing to do here. We saw rook f1 played. You actually have to give the king some room and sacrifice an entire rook. That sort of thing. This was played in the game. Losing move, mate in 3. Can you find the finish? Rook takes on f1 check. King takes. This one slams down. And your only move now, here we saw resigns, but if you hadn't resigned, you'd have to give up the rook and you mate on the back rank. So instructive from Magnus, 30 moves. Do check out the Remote Chess Academy courses. They're honestly fantastic. Get ready for the new season coming ahead if you play over the board or improve your online chess. The positional ideas, right? That's where it's just an absolute gold mine. So many nuggets. Thanks a lot for watching, and do have a look at the video on screen if you want to see another epic game of chess. Cheers.